Hello everyone, I'm Casper. Welcome to Testeroni, where we serve you some test automation knowledge one slice at a time. And today we are going to focus on one problem that I see basically all the beginners run into. It's something infuriating for a lot of people because we are talking about problems with version control and, to be precise, problem with merge conflicts. I feel that basically everyone runs into these kinds of issues at the beginning of the journey, regardless of how much you have learned about version control, how many crash courses you have seen and stuff like that. Once you're actually within the organization and you try and do a pull request, you are bound to, one time or another, just hit a wall of some merge conflicts. And today we are going to explore this precise topic and talk about how we can actually fix this issue in a very, very easy manner and actually to even prevent it from happening. So very often the story goes something like this. You are assigned a task, you create a feature branch that you are going to be working on, you do your work there, you do some commits, regular commits, hopefully, and after some time you are ready to actually merge into the main branch. And so you decide that everything is in order, it's worked properly, so you push your changes to the remote, you for the final time, you do a pull request through the version control system of your choice, and suddenly you are informed that there are some merge conflicts. There are some problems which are preventing you from actually merging this branch into the main one. And so here you are thinking that you have thought everything through and seeing that this branch is working properly, but at the same time, it seems like something is amiss because you need to resolve some conflicts and your IDE did not even prompt you that there were some conflicts to begin with. And so why does this happen? So the problem is, after you create a feature branch, you know, there are some commits in the main branch and then your feature branch is like a branch that is coming off of this main branch at some point in time. And so, of course, your feature branch may be working for you locally because it is consistent within its existence from that point in time in the past. It is consistent. But the thing is, the main branch is usually quite a busy place, and especially the larger the organization or the more people are collaborating on something, the busier the main branch is because people are doing their own pull requests. They are merging stuff to that branch all the time. There's new additions and stuff like that. So there's a very high likelihood that by the time you are finished with your feature on that feature branch, so by the time you've done your task, the main branch has already moved on. It has already gone to the future when we are looking from the perspective of your branch, from the perspective of the point when the branches diverged. So you have main, suddenly there's your feature branch, create it, so there's a commit that goes on the other branch and your feature branch is going to get longer and longer, but main is still getting longer too. And so as a consequence, when you try to merge your changes, the main branch that you are trying to merge back into has already moved on. And so the point at which they diverged, at which you created your feature branch, is not the same moment looking from the perspective of the main branch as the one you are in right now. And so that's where the merge conflicts arise. Basically, what you're trying to do is merge the old state of the main branch plus your changes, because that's what your branch effectively is. It's your history that you have written plus the history of the main branch to the point at which you created your feature branch. So this one, you are trying to merge into the old history of the main branch, before your branch creation, plus the things that have been created afterwards. And therein lies the problem. When we were talking about this main, then the diverging point when you are creating your feature branch, the main one still goes on afterwards also. And so you have these two things happening simultaneously. You have the main branch getting new commits that are not reflected in your branch, and you have your branch getting new commits because you are adding some stuff into it. And so the conflicts are inevitable, but you can do something about them. And the answer is going to be really simple. There's no black magic involved. It may seem like the situation is quite hard to solve, like this is some kind of a dead end, but actually it is not. The solution is very simple. You just need to ingrain that into your muscle memory. And what I mean is, before you try and merge into main, check out to main, update main so that you get all the new commits that were added afterwards to the main branch, and then go back to your branch and rebase it onto main. That's it. It's just 3 steps. Check out to main, update main, rebase your feature branch onto the updated main. And then you are ready. You are ready to push everything into the remote and be ready to do a pull request. And you may say like, what the hell, Casper? Don't tell me that is enough. It is enough. And now we're going to explore why that is enough. So what it does, it pulls the changes that you were missing in your history from the main branch, and because you are doing a rebase, it basically rewrites the commit history in such a way that your commits from the feature branch end up on top of that stack. So you can think of it like it takes your feature branch. Remember, we were talking about this point where the paths diverged. So this moment in time where your feature branch went off from the main branch, and the main branch went on, carried on without the things from your branch, and your branch without the things from the main branch. So what a rebase does is that it takes your feature branch, and instead of leaving the diversion point at that commit when it actually happened, it basically moves the whole thing to the future in such a way, that's why you update the main, in such a way that it attaches it to the end of main. So it attaches it to the newest version of main. So when you are creating a feature branch, it is the newest state of main. But like we have already talked about, the main branch is a busy one. So it has actually moved on since then. And what you do by updating it and doing a rebase is moving your feature branch, altering, like I said, the commit history in such a way that your changes end up on top. So while normally they would be on top of the old version of main, and then there would be other things coming your way and you would need to somehow merge them, in this situation, it takes all your stuff and it adds it on top of the actual new main. So of the actual main, which does reflect all the commits that were added afterwards. So keeping that in mind, of course, it makes merging easier because all your things are now on top. There is no question over which one should go where, because your changes are on top of the whole hierarchy. They are on top of that stack. And of course, if you are altering some things that have also been already altered in the main since then, there will be conflicts. But the good thing is, those conflicts will be your responsibility and your decision then. You won't leave it to, for example, a maintainer of a repository. You won't leave it in someone else's hands. You will have the final say. So if you do a rebase and there is some conflict, then you will just be prompted that there is a conflict within the newly created structure hierarchy. And you just need to decide whether you want to keep the new version of the file or your local version of the file, whether you just want to keep some lines, for example, from your version of the file and keep some from the updated main. You decide all of that. So it just becomes a breeze to actually merge after that, because you have all the newest commits in the main, you have all your feature commits, and you are just putting one on top of the other. And if they clash, the IDE will just prompt you that they did, and you will have the final say. You can decide that, yeah, all right, so maybe let's go with the version from main because it's even a better solution to something that I was also somehow accompanying. Or maybe you decide that your version still goes. But either way, you have the final say and you have the knowledge of what actually goes where. So you are not caught off guard by stuff happening and you just not knowing why it merged in such a way and not some other way. And let me just, as a quick side note, go back to a thing I said like 30 seconds ago about the IDE. Yes, I do heartily recommend you to use an IDE for all of that. I know that there are some extreme opinions for some reason about using your version control with your IDE and versus using it with some terminal or command line. Some people decide to use the command line built into the IDE, even if the IDE supports some plugins or inbuilt tools to work with the version control system. I heartily recommend you to use the version control tools for your work with a version control system. These are a huge addition to the comfort of a developer's life, and all those life quality improvements for developers, they are created for a reason. So please go and utilize them. Don't treat using version control through a command line like some kind of rite of passage, and I see some people doing that. Don't do it. If you have a neat GUI interface that allows you to alter all those things, just go ahead and use it. You can click all of those things that I have just told you, like the checkout, rebase and stuff like that. You can click it out in like 2 seconds. So why waste your time wrestling with version control in the terminal with pretty illegible interface, with readability problems, with remembering the commands and trying to somehow figure out which command goes where and which command uses what flags, which flags you should use and which you shouldn't, if you can just click it out. So please go ahead and use it. All the modern IDEs have some kind of built-in tool that handles version control, regardless of whether you are using Visual Studio Code, the regular Visual Studio, I don't know, IntelliJ, PyCharm, whatever. They all come with a built-in solution for handling version control, which presents everything neatly in a graphical form that makes sense, that makes it easy to click, that it makes it easy to present any problems that arise in a more human understandable format and structured in a more presentable way. And last but certainly not the least, in the case of the conflicts, which I said will probably rise from time to time, when you are resolving them, it's actually so much easier to do that when you are presented with a GUI rather than doing that in command line, that I cannot even tell you. You will be presented with, like, you will actually see a window showing you a current version of a file, a version from the remote, for example, and a version from your local, and you can actually just click. You can sit a person who never touched a computer and show them that, and they would know what to do. So why try to get a PhD in command line when you can just see such a nifty window and just actually click a big button saying accept left or accept right, or right click and decide that accept this line, ignore this line. You can do it in such an easy manner that it demystifies all the inner workings and problems that many people face with version control. And yeah, some people claim that it actually makes the workflow faster. Some people also claim that Vim makes the workflow faster than using a modern IDE. Maybe, but for the vast majority of situations, unless you have a very good reason not to, I really recommend you to do all of that with the tooling provided to you by the IDE. So after you did all the 3 steps that I mentioned, check out to main, update main, rebase feature onto main, you are ready to push your changes and create a pull request that actually holds water. However, there is one important caveat here. So the first thing you should understand is that there is nothing wrong with doing the rebase process more than once. So it's not like you need to wait until the very last second and rebase then. You can actually do that on multiple occasions. If you don't want everything to come down onto you like a waterfall, you may not wait until the last second to then rebase everything. You can actually do that earlier. You can do it, even doing it frequently is sometimes a good idea if there's a busy main branch, because then you don't have 100 conflicts to resolve if you were working also on something more complex, for example. But, and herein comes the caveat, this does not really apply if you are collaborating with other people on the same feature branch. So if you're working on a feature branch with other people who are pulling from it, please first discuss your rebase strategy with them, because you are effectively rewriting common history when you are doing a rebase. And while it doesn't do any harm when you're doing it alone, which will be the vast majority of the cases, it is a little shaky when you do it with other people, because if you are all pushing to a remote repository, there is even some people claim that it is a good idea to never rebase multiple times on something that has already been pushed to a remote. I wouldn't be so strict. I would just discuss it with your teammates that you are collaborating with so that everyone's on the same page. So the problem that may arise is that if you push something to the remote, everyone pulls it, you are all working, and then you rebase again, and you push it, and then suddenly the other people were working on something with a different history than what you have pushed, because you have pushed a rebased version of that. And as a consequence, this may result in kind of an inception kind of a problem from the one that we are talking in this video about. So basically, you are introducing the same problem that you had by not rebasing to the main for the other people. Just now you are doing it inside the feature branch and not inside the main branch. And so this may create some unneeded headache. So it may be that suddenly nobody knows why the history looks like it does. So just try and not avoid it strictly, but try and think about the consequences that it may cause and just discuss it with other people so that nobody is caught off guard by the fact that you have suddenly added stuff that rewrites the commit history, and they were working on a version that they pulled that they thought was already safe, and then suddenly it's not safe because there's merge conflicts everywhere because the commit history changed. So once again, it's the same situation as with the main. They would be working on things from a different building block, a different foundational block from the past, and they would be building on top of that, and you suddenly rewrote everything in history, and it's now a different landscape. So this may introduce some troubles. This wouldn't happen too often, so I'm just adding it as a bonus point that you may need to keep in mind. In the vast majority of situations, you are absolutely in the green if you are working solo on your branch, or if you know the strategy of your teammates and you are all on the same page. Don't worry. In the vast majority of cases, you are going to be working on pretty small branches either way, which are probably going to be maintained by just you because you are going to be working on them, because these feature branches will be just tied to a task that you are assigned. If you are working with other people, just talk to them about that or create another branch or something like that. Just don't try not to do it without telling anyone if you are collaborating. But in 95% of the situations, this won't even apply to you. So don't get scared about that. Just keep that in mind. But as long as you're working solo, which will be the vast majority of the cases, just rebase as often as you see fit and as often as it allows you to feel comfortable with it. And so this trick that we have just explored is called a rebase workflow. It is an industry standard, one of them. And of course, like with all industry standards, it's going to be opinionated. You will have people saying that something is better, something is worse. I firmly believe that you should start with that. And in real life, this will probably cover a vast majority of the situations you are going to end up with. And when you're a beginner, all of the situations we are going to end up with. Sometimes there's going to be some twisted scenarios within your repo, but in such situations, usually there's more people maintaining that and keeping track of it. In the day-to-day work, in your daily tasks, where you are just creating a feature branch, doing some changes and creating a pull request, this will be perfect. And I really stand by my words. I really recommend you to just get that into your muscle memory so that when you are doing your stuff, you just then update your main and rebase your feature branch onto main. And this will solve all your problems and all your headache that you may have had so far, that may have made the pull request procedure a way more of a stressful situation that it should have been. And so just remember, use your IDE and its tooling. And as for the procedure itself, when you want to do a pull request, check out your main, update your main, and then rebase your feature branch onto that newly updated main. Then you are ready to push, and then you are ready to create a pull request. If any conflicts arise during that procedure, just choose whichever version is applicable and whichever version you think should go. And in such a situation, everything will be a smooth ride. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope this will allow you to not stress out over the pull request process, and it will make your merges a way more pleasurable experience. Believe me, after you do it a couple of times, it becomes a second nature. You do that within a span of seconds, basically, and you don't even register it because it's just automatic. And at the same time, it saves you a lot of headache, a lot of time, and a lot of tedious merging procedures. So thank you once again. I really recommend you to go take a look at other videos from Testroni, to like and subscribe, and to visit our social media. Once again, thank you for your attention and keep on rocking.